Hello, friends. Welcome in Mysterious Lost. Welcome to a chilling exploration of three unbelievable tragedies and missing people that have occurred in the national parks. Throughout the years, many individuals have ventured into the vast wilderness of America's national parks, seeking beauty, adventure, and tranquility. However, for some, their journeys have taken unexpected and tragic turns, leaving behind unanswered questions and unsettling tales. These incidents stand as a reminder of the unpredictable and dangerous nature that lies hidden within the natural wonders of our national parks. Case number 1. Officials at Olympic National Park said Monday that the mountain goat that killed a tourist over the weekend by goring him and then standing over him and staring at people who tried to help had been aggressive in the past. Robert Boardman, who was 63 and from Port Angeles, died Saturday after the goat attacked him while he was hiking in the park on the subalpine switchback trail. People who live in nearby Port Angeles, which is about 85 miles west of Seattle, like to use the road. Later, park guards found the goat, which had stayed nearby. They saw that it had blood on it, so they shot it. Rangers have been looking for the ram and others for the past 4 years because they wouldn't stop following people or coming up to tourists, said Barb Maines, who works for the park. It has been aggressive, but there was nothing that made us think it was time to take the next step in getting rid of it, she said. This is very uncommon. Nothing like that has ever been seen or heard in this park. It's a sad story. We are taking it very seriously and doing everything we can to learn as much as we can about it. At trailheads, park officials have put up signs telling walkers to be careful around goats and stay at least 100 feet away from them. Hikers are also told not to urinate on the path or near it because goats like the salt. On Sunday night, a private licensed veterinary pathologist did an autopsy on the goat. This is also called a necropsy. Maines said that the park staff is waiting for the results of tests on blood and tissue samples, which could take a couple of weeks. We're looking for anything that might point to diseases, which could explain why the animal is acting so strangely, she said. The Peninsula Daily News said that Boardman was hiking with his wife, Susan Chad, and their friend, Pat Willits. They had stopped for lunch at an overlook when the goat started acting mean toward them. The paper says that Boardman told the other people to go ahead while he tried to get rid of the goat. When he yelled, they ran back to help. Hikers who found the group sent a message for help by radio. But according to the Seattle Times, it took nearly an hour for authorities to reach Boardman because the goat stood over him while he lay still on the ground. Jessica Backus, who was climbing with her family at the time, told the Times the mountain goat was very mean. It refused to move. It looked at us. She and her husband, a park scientist named Bill Backus, tried to get the goat to leave by throwing rocks at it, yelling at it, and throwing a silver reflecting blanket at it. It finally moved away, and Jessica Backus tried to give Boardman CPR until a nearby doctor took over, she told the Times. He was taken out of the park by a U.S. Coast Guard chopper. The Peninsula Daily News says that Boardman was a well-known musician and diabetes instructor in the area. She loved hiking and worked for many years as a nurse for the Maka and Lower Elwha Klallam tribes. About 300 goats roam the park's rocky hills and alpine meadows. The animals were brought into the park in the 1920s, before the park was even built. Maines said that in the late 1980s, the park had a 2-year live capture program to get rid of the goats by chopper. This was because the goats were hurting the fragile alpine areas and soil in the park. After 2 years, that program was stopped because it was found to be risky for workers and less useful, she said. Wild animals are dangerous because they are unpredictable. Case number 2. In September of 2020, an individual was discovered deceased in the Hazel Creek region of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. It is probable that the cause of death was a bear assault, thereby marking the second recorded instance of a fatality resulting from a bear encounter within the park's historical records. The announcement is a result of the publication of the NC Chief Medical Examiner's conclusive findings, which indicates that trauma resulting from the attack is the primary probable cause of death. According to supervisory wildlife biologist Bill Stavir, bears hold a significant symbolic status in the Smokies. Yet it is important to acknowledge that they are inherently hazardous creatures, and their conduct can occasionally be erratic. Hiking and camping in bear-inhabited regions include inherent risks. Black bears, being the primary apex predators inside the park, have been known to engage in few but notable incidents of aggression towards humans, resulting in severe harm and even fatalities. The body of Madura, a 43-year-old individual residing in Illinois, was discovered on the afternoon of Friday, September 11, 2020. This unfortunate event unfolded when trekkers, who were traversing the Hazel Creek Trail in Swain County, stumbled into an unoccupied tent at Campsite 82. Inside the tent, they found a solitary sleeping bag. Upon observing the opposite bank of the creek, the individuals witnessed a bear in the act of transporting a deceased human being. The hikers promptly departed in search of cellular network connectivity, and the dispatch center was notified of the occurrence prior to 7 p.m. Law enforcement rangers and wildlife officers were expeditiously deployed to the location, arriving just after midnight to validate the account of a deceased adult male. Additionally, the researchers witnessed a bear engaging in active scavenging of the remains, prompting the park rangers to make the decision to euthanize the animal. According to the first report of the circumstances surrounding Madura's death by the NC Office of the Chief Medical Examiner, various items such as clothing, camping gear, personal belongings, and Madura's identification were discovered within the tent. During that period, park authorities were uncertain as to whether the bear was responsible for Madura's demise or if it had encountered his remains post-mortem. In the year 2018, an incident occurred wherein a bear was seen engaging in scavenging behavior on the remains of a deceased individual located around 2 miles away from Cades Cove. However, subsequent examination of the deceased individual's body revealed that the cause of death was attributed to an overdose of methamphetamine, with the bear's interaction with the body occurring subsequent to the individual's demise. Case number 3. Tomer Frankfurter, 18, was on a 2-month tour of the U.S. from Israel when the tragedy occurred in Yosemite National Park, California. Along with a group of tourists, Frankfurter had been trekking the revered 5.4-mile mist trail route through the stunning Nevada Falls cliffs on September 2018 and decided he wanted to capture a memorable photo of the trip. Handing his cell phone to a woman in the group, Frankfurter is then said to have started climbing over the cliff edge as other hikers tried to persuade the teenager to come back because it wasn't safe. However, Frankfurter continued over the rock face and, suspending himself with his arms, he dangled himself above the falls below. For a few moments, everything went as planned for Frankfurter, who posed for pictures with the rest of the group watching on. However, suddenly the teen's grip began to slip and he called out, "I need help," in desperation. According to reports, a number of tourists ran over and tried to hoist Frankfurter back to safety, grabbing onto his arms and wrists. But as it was a warm summer afternoon, Frankfurter began to tire, and his would-be rescuers were struggling to get a firm grip on his arms, which were slippery with sweat. Slowly, the adventurer from Jerusalem began to slip from their grasp. Then suddenly he fell, plunging 820F to the ground below. Frankfurter fell in a tragic accident in circumstances that he was entirely in control of until the point of the fall, wrote Jesse McGahee, the Yosemite ranger who filed the report on the investigation into the death. The witnesses that attempted to render aid were heroic in their actions, McGahee said. But once Frankfurter descended to hang from the edge of the cliff face, there was nothing they could have done to prevent his fall with the equipment available. Frankfurter's death came as an addition to the fast-growing number of young people who've died as part of the so-called selfie epidemic, in search of the most impressive photos for Instagram or Facebook. Today, people are trying to prove that they did something, said Michael Giglieri, co-author of Off the Wall Death in Yosemite to Mercury News. In the old days, people went out to have an experience. Now they go out to record that they had that experience. A student at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, Frankfurter was on a 2-month trip of the United States and had been staying with a family friend in Fresno. The two visited Yosemite together, but were separated into different tour groups prior to the fatal accident. Friends of Frankfurter recalled how he said he wanted to replicate a photo he'd seen of a tourist in Brazil at Telegraph Rock, showing the individual hanging from a rocky platform and appearing to be thousands of feet above the ground. In reality, the photo is actually an optical illusion, with the rock hanging just 3 feet above a pathway below. But no such trickery exists at the Nevada Falls. I thought Frankfurter was joking, one witness told investigators, according to documents obtained exclusively by Mercury News. I turned around because I couldn't watch, but he was hanging off the rock. Then he started to struggle. Others reveal how they watched on in horror as the teenager clung on for dear life by the tips of his fingers. I heard some of my friends screaming, "Come quickly, everyone, hurry!" One witness recalled, "Help! We need help! He's falling!" Another person shouted out as 3 hikers scrambled to pull Frankfurter back to safety. "People started running toward him," one witness said, "but he just couldn't hang on anymore." As he fell, hikers turned away in horror, with screams and crying breaking out among members of the group. Frankfurter died instantly on impact, investigators say. He landed on a rocky patch by the side of a river in an investigation conducted by TDE Journal of Family Medicine and Primary Care. At least 259 people have died in selfie-related incidents. Between 2011 and 2017, the average age of the victims was 23, 3/4 of whom were male. Friends of Frankfurter recalled how he said he wanted to replicate a photo he'd seen of a tourist in Brazil at Telegraph Rock. Most people will say, "I want the photo, but it's too dangerous," said Giglieri to Mercury News. Some people, and it's almost always guys, recognize it's dangerous, but they don't internalize it as dangerous. They perceive it like a Hollywood movie set. It's a disconnect. The Vietnam veteran suggests the national park updates its safety warnings for a younger generation, but insists evening building miles of fencing wouldn't stop social media enthusiasts, as someone would climb over it. In the month after Frankfurter's death, travel blogging newlyweds Vishnu Viswanath, 29, and Meenakshi Murthy, 30, died after falling from Taft Point in Yosemite. A tripod and camera was found set up where they fell. A lot of us, including yours truly, is a fan of daredevilry attempts of standing at the edge of cliffs and skyscrapers. But did you know that wind gusts can be fatal? Is our life just worth one photo? Morthy wrote just months before the fall on their blog, Holidays and Happily Ever After. At least 1,004 people have died at Yosemite since 1851. 300 of them died falling from a great height. At the end, if you do go to the national parks this summer, be careful, don't take risks. Obey those signs there. We want you to go and enjoy yourself in national parks, forests, and wilderness areas, but live to tell the tale. Thanks for listening. I look forward to reading your comments. In the meanwhile, be good to yourselves and each other. I'll talk to you next time.